thing. This is Unreal Engine. We are using version 4.17.1 in this class. You can download this for free. You don't have to pay for it. It is just a free thing. It's loading and it's thinking. Oops. Yes, I know that. It's fine. And it's loading that there. When you download Unreal, you may get, where is it at? Library, I think. You may get the latest version. So whatever the latest version is, you would get that. And let me verify which one we're using here. But you can add any version and change it to whichever version you want. So there you go. 4.18 is the latest version out. Okay. So you can go all the way back down to 4. For what we're doing, it's not going to matter. Everything we are doing in this class for this assignment is going to be the exact same process. Okay. You do have to create an account on the site. Not a huge deal. Let's click sign in later. All right. Yeah, 4.17.0 is what the college is using. Okay. Now that does matter because you can't go back and forth. You can go up. So if I have 4.17, I can go to 4.17.1, but then going back to 4.17.0 doesn't always work. So whatever version we're using here, 4.17.0, if you want to play with this at home, download that version. Okay. On the back 3 computers, I think we even have an extra version on there. I forget which one it is. You can look it up. All right. So this is the Unreal project browser. Okay. The way that this works is that you can start off with a completely blank scene, which is just the Unreal environment, and then you can add stuff to it. I find that very tedious because then you have to build everything from scratch, start off with something that makes sense, and go from there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I want to create a third person. I prefer the third person ones. A third person game, desktop or console, I leave that. Maximum quality, I leave that. And then with starter content or no starter content, it's always best to leave it with it because you can always delete it later. It's not an issue. And then where do you want to save it? So I'm going to put this into my folder. There, 20. I'll make a new folder in here called Sarcona Unreal. There we go. And then I give this a project name. So this is my testing one. So I'm going to say test ThorHammer. All right. So what I want to do is I want to bring in my ThorHammer because I want to be able to give, let's say, the option of someone to actually walk around my thing or actually use it inside my game. So I hit create. And then we wait. Okay. Now this is going to create a file with like a whole bunch of folders and a whole bunch of files inside those folders. If we look at what that looks like while this is generating, I'm just going to pin this to my start menu, so I don't have to keep doing that. Here's, oops, Unreal, ThorHammer. So there's my one file. This is my Unreal project file, and then here's all the stuff that is part of that. Okay, so unlike Maya, you don't have one file; you have all this stuff. This one project file right now is about 700 megabytes. So just the stuff to start off with, nothing else in there, is 700 megabytes. So just be prepared for bigger folders. All right. Has anyone here never played a video game before? Okay, cool. Just in case, you hit the play button up here, and then my mouse is what controls where he's looking, and then W, A, S, and D are what control the direction he moves, and then spacebar is to jump, and that's pretty much all the controls this guy has. Okay, so I control where he's moving and jumping and so on. Sweet. Okay, so there's his little world. I hit escape, I get back in here. Now these controls are similar to Maya. Alt middle drag or Alt right drag zooms me out. Alt middle moves me left and right. It's actually backwards. And then Alt left mouse button spins me around. Okay, so that's where we currently are in our world. Now what I want to do, I want to take my ThorHammer and I want to bring my ThorHammer into this world. If I go back to Maya and I close this million windows that are up, which I'm not sure why those million windows are up. Workspaces, no, modeling. That's window. close this. Boom, there we go. Okay. I'm going to open up my Thor hammer. So I'm going to go to my projects, make sure I'm set. Go to my Thor hammer, bring it open. All right. So I have some other stuff in my scene. I'm just going to delete that just because I don't want to bring that in too. I just want to bring the Thor hammer in. Okay. So I'm going to take all of this stuff and I'm going to export it out. So I go to File, Export. There is a game exporter. This is very similar to the thing I'm going to do. I'll show that too in a second. I'm just going to go to Export Selection. Just like before, anytime we go from one program to another program, we need to know what file format they want from one to the other. So when I go to Unreal and I double click, or I go to Import, down here is all the different kinds of files that I can bring into Unreal. You'll notice that OBJ is one of those choices that I could bring in. Okay, we're not going to use that, but it is one of the choices. MPEG audio, so we can bring an MP3 in here if we want to. We could bring in AVIs. We can bring in movies. Okay, the one that we're going to use is this one right here, FBX. Okay, and the reason we want to bring an FBX in is because FBXs can take not only stills, like a solid piece of geometry, but they can also take in animations. So if I animated my Thor hammer spinning around, I can bring that animation in to Unreal and use it. Okay, so I go back to Maya. I choose FBX from my list. There it is. And I will call this Thor hammer to Unreal. Okay. Inside my options here, I only have to change one thing. And it's way down here under the advanced options, under FBX file import or file format. They may have fixed it. I guess we can try it and see. But 2016 and 17 never worked. I don't know what happened to it. They just decided not to make that one work. But 2014 or 15 always did work. We'll just try 2018 and see if that works. Okay. Inside here, you can specify what actually gets sent out. So do you want your smooth mesh to be sent out? Do you want your selection sets to be sent out? Do you want your animation to be sent out? I don't have an animation, so I'm just going to click that off. Do you have any cameras? I don't need to bring any cameras in. Do you have any lights? Do you want to bring those in? Okay. So I don't have these things. I don't have to uncheck them. I'm just showing you where they're at. Okay. So now I'm going to hit export. So now that should be inside of my project folder. So what I want to do is I want to then put that into my Unreal project. Now I can go here to import and I can navigate to that piece of geometry and bring that in. Okay, that's not what I want to do though, because that doesn't create niceness. What I want to do is I want to go into my Thor hammer folder, Thor hammer to Unreal right there. That's a nice icon. I want to copy that file. And I want to go back to my 2520 folder, back to my Unreal folder, back to my test Thor hammer, back to my content, and back to geometry. And this is where I want to paste my Thor hammer. Now watch what happens when I put that in there, and then I jump back to Unreal. Do you see where it says a change to the source content file has been detected? Would you like to import it? Okay. So this is the preferred method because all I have to do is I can create a whole bunch of stuff, drop it into my Unreal folder, and it'll automatically bring it all in for me. Versus import and then trying to find all of my stuff. Okay, so I'm going to say import. It's going to ask me some information about this. Obviously, we're going from one program to another, so there is going to be a different scale that we have to worry about. For now, don't worry about it. Just know that there is one. Materials, same thing. We have Maya materials versus Unreal materials. We'll get into all that. Don't worry about it. Import. So now it's thinking a second, it's processing the source files, I'm going to go, when this is done, I'm going to hit content. Yes, sir.
If someone were to make like a character and try to make like a walk cycle, would you animate that in Unreal or like
You could do either one. So it depends on what you want them to do. If you wanted them to be interactive, like your character that does walk around Unreal, you wanted that to be your character, you would do that in Unreal. You would build your model, export them out into here, and then you would connect it somehow. I'm not there yet. Not the class isn't there. I'm not there yet. Content, geometry, and if we look, here is ThorHammer to Unreal. Now you'll see it actually broke my ThorHammer into a whole bunch of parts, okay? As it brought it in, it just separated everything. So that's not really what I wanted. So I'm just going to delete all of this stuff. Yes, delete. Okay. So now my ThorHammer is gone. I deleted it from here, totally gone, not there anymore. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this and I'm going to group everything. Delete that. And that might be the difference in 2018 because I don't believe 2014 or 15 did that. Yes, I know you exist. Let's just double check. Smoothing groups. Yes, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Animation, embed media connections. Yep, everything should be good there. All right, let's try that again. So I'm going to go back to my 2520, back to my ThorHammer, back to my scenes. And typically what I do is I'll keep these two windows open. So the left window is my Unreal. My right window is my Maya scenes. And I can just copy this right into there. Go back to Unreal. And it's going to say in a second, what do you want to import? I say yes. Import. Make sure there's nothing here. Import materials, textures. You can click the down arrows to get more information. Static mesh. That's fine there. Ignore. Now, if this doesn't work, we'll do one more thing, and then that will for sure fix it. I just want to see if that's going to work. Nope, I did it again. Alright, so we delete it again. Gone. Yes. Yes. Okay. So now I'm just going to jump back to Maya and just do a mesh combine. And what this does is it actually takes my entire mesh and puts it as one solid object. Okay. So now if I export this out, ThorHammer. Yes, that's fine. And then copy my ThorHammer to my Unreal folder. And this may even import quicker just because it is now a solid object. Or not, it's just still going to take forever. Now this is where, however many divisions I have on this thing, display, heads up display, poly count, 35,000, or sorry, 66,000 triangles. That's a lot of divisions for a prop, okay? Characters a long time ago were like 4,400 triangles, and this is 60,000. All right, so there we go. So let's close that. Here's my ThorHammer. You see it came in as one piece because I combined everything. It worked. Now the neat thing is, if I wanted different materials, I could create, remember we assigned surface shaders to all those pieces before? I could export that model out and it would actually bring it in with those materials separated so I can assign different materials to different items, okay? So this one comes in with a ThorHammer here and an AI standard surface. So that's what I had in Maya, the standard surface material, and that's what was assigned to the whole thing. If I double click this, this will bring up Unreal's shaders. Okay, now this is going to look different than obviously Maya's and different than Substance and everything else, but it's pretty simple in how it works. We take whatever is here and we connect it to color, to metallic, to specular, roughness, normal, whatever it is. Okay, it's really straightforward. Don't let the interface kind of intimidate you. Let's ignore the texture for a second. Sure. And let me drag my ThorHammer into my scene. And then I hit F. There it is. So now if I make this, obviously, up higher, and you can see the scene scale, right? I don't know what kind of Thor hammer that is, but it's a tiny one. Make that bigger. Put it right there. Perfect. Then I hit the play button. Oh, there it is. Now, it's just a collision object right now. We're not going to get to the point of collecting it, adding score points or anything. Right now, it's simply a matter of it's in our scene. We can walk around it. Neat. All right. So now let's add something to it. Let's add some color to it. So I'm going to jump back to Substance. I'm going to jump back to my ThorHammer file. And because we're going from Substance now to Unreal, we want to export this out a different way than what we previously did. Last time we exported, we chose, where is it? The Arnold one that we specified, right? So we made up our own Arnold one that exported out that Arnold way. This way, I want to go with Unreal 4. And this would say Unreal Engine 4 Packed. I can open this up and see it's going to give me base color, metallic, normal, and emissive. I really don't need the emissive. I can just delete that later, but it's there. Where is it going to save this? I'm going to put this inside of my, not there, Unreal, ThorHammer, content, geometry, and I'm just going to put a textures folder. Okay. Now, typically, if I'm doing a project, I want to create a ThorHammer folder that would have the geometry and the textures. Create something else, this item and the textures. Organize it somehow. I'm also exporting this out at 4K for a game engine that is incredibly large. Okay, especially for an asset that is right now just sitting at my work area. All right, so once this exports, what we should see is back in Unreal, it should say, hey, you just imported new textures. Do you want to show those? And I would say, of course I want to show those. It's still calculating. All right, so now that's done. We hit OK. We go back to Unreal. And it should be updating. I will verify that it's actually in the right folder. Yes, textures. Yep, there they are. Base color, normal, and metallic. So it didn't have an emissive channel, so it didn't export one. All right, so let me go back to here. Why aren't you refreshing? Let's save everything. Save all. Close that and just reopen it because it should have updated already. It should have said you have new stuff. There it is. Now you can open more than one version, so if I were to click this like 6 times, it would open like 6 versions of Unreal. Like right now, if I click it again, it'll open another one, so just be careful that you don't open up multiple versions when you're playing with this. Alright, so there's my ThorHammer. When you back this up, make sure that you take your entire folder. So I can't just take this one file here because that one file is basically just a container that points to all this other stuff. All right, let's try this again. Content, geometry, there it is, textures. Oh, I know what I did wrong. That should have caught it anyway. I sent these out as TIFFs. I need to send them out as JPEGs or PNGs in order for that to work. While I'm here too, I'll just change this to a lower number, like 512. Okay. Much quicker. All right, so now it says you have new files, import. There we go. Yes. All right, so now here are my 3 files. So what I need to do is to connect these 3 files to my actual AI material. So if I double click the AI material, it brings open this window. Now these controls are a little bit different. Scroll wheel zooms in and out. Right clicking and dragging moves it around. Okay, Alt and these keys don't do anything, so don't worry about those. I'm going to go to my textures folder. I'm going to drag my 3 textures into here. and then I'm just going to connect them. Okay, so I can delete this. This is just a flat color. Here's my real color. There's my normal. And then this one is some other stuff we'll get into in a second. Okay. So we talked a little bit about this before. When you bring in an image, so we have a TIFF image we were bringing into roughness, we had to tell it that the alpha was luminance so that it would actually read the brightness of the image and apply that to the roughness channel. Okay, so these three here is red, green, and blue. That's the red, green, and blue channel. This one is the alpha channel, and this one is a combined result of all these channels put together. So for color, I want to drag the combined result to base color. And here's my little preview. There we go. We can spin around it to see, different sides of it. Here is my normal map. I know it's a normal map because of the coloration. I'm going to take the result and drop it into normal. And again, you'll see that we have actually like some bump applied to it. Oops. Okay. And then this one here, this is a special one. So I'm going to look at the name of it. And you'll see this is called occlusion, roughness, and metallic. Okay? So because occlusion, ambient occlusion is a black and white channel, roughness is a black and white channel, and metallic is a black and white channel. And instead of having 3 separate files, one for each, it combines all 3 of them into one. Occlusion is in the red channel, the roughness is in the green channel, and then metallic is in the blue channel. Okay? So it might sound complex, but it's actually a nice way that they do it so we don't have to load in a whole bunch of stuff. So red is occlusion, so I drop it on occlusion. Green is roughness, so I drop this on roughness. Blue is metallic, I drop this on metallic. Okay, so now that's what we have. Sweet. So I hit save, and that saves this material. Then I can close it. And now it already gets applied to my ThorHammer. Because my ThorHammer came in with that AI assigned to it, it automatically is connected. So I hit play, and now when I walk over, there's my ThorHammer. Now, the detail isn't obviously going to be as great as it was in Substance because our textures are not as great. Let me make this bigger so we can really see it. I'll even lay it down. I really like their scaling tools and how that works. Alright, so there's our, you can see our little logos on the side are definitely not as clear as they were. Our image that makes those textures there is super tiny, so it's not going to look perfect, but we don't care about that here. You can see the differences in the textures where this is very reflective. You can see the metallic on it. The wood handle is not as reflective. He's floating. And then obviously we have our strap right there. Okay? So this is a nice way to be able to show off your stuff. Let's say that you have a demo reel you want to create eventually, and you want to be able to show off your pieces. It's one thing to have a still image of your piece. It's another thing for them to be able to actually interact with it. Be able to walk around your item and actually see what does, this is my ThorHammer. What does this look like from these different views? And you can actually create other stuff. This is the first time we're touching Unreal. You can create other stuff in here that does make it more interactive, that does allow them to be able to do different things so that when they hit a certain point, that's when your ThorHammer maybe pops out. Or it's a collectible item, so when they get near it, it actually gets collected and you can have scores and whatever else. At one point, over the summer, I deleted stuff I was working on for like 6 months in Unreal, and so that's all gone. But before I did that, it actually did have an environment where you could walk through and collect stuff, and it did keep track of your score, and now that's all gone. Start over. Okay? And you'll see he even has a reflection in there, which is awesome. Okay? So that's what is a nice little workflow. So if you get done with your ThorHammer, do this. Bring your ThorHammer into Unreal and just get used to moving around, dropping your stuff in there. You can even go back to your gears and export your gears out and bring them in. You'll find the issue with the gears is going to be it doesn't like having all of those different UV maps spread out. Okay, so just to see it, drop it in, see what happens. It's no big deal. Or your very first one that we did, drop that in and see what happens. You know, just play around with it a little bit. There is other stuff inside here too. Remember it said starter content? So if I go back to starter content, I go to props, there it is. Here's some stuff that comes with it. So there's a chair. Sweet. Here is a rock. All right, and it's pretty decent, you know, as far as a rock goes, to be able to walk around that thing. Okay. Now let me jump to the other one. Okay, so that was the third person. Very nice. You can walk around the third person stuff. You can see the person, which is what I like about video games. I really don't care for first person. You can switch it, but it's not an easy process. So I recommend whatever you eventually decide that you're going to ever do in this, to stick to whichever one it is you want and not try to switch. Okay, I wouldn't go first person then try to switch to a third person or vice versa. If I want first, just go to first. I'm going to make this one first person. Now, you get different stuff with the first person. Obviously, if you're doing first person, you get a gun, so you can walk around and shoot obstacles and stuff. While this is loading, I'm going to grab my content, geometry, stuff here, and I'm going to drop it into my first person content geometry there. Okay, I'm going to import my stuff. It's thinking, it's thinking, it's thinking. So I copied all the stuff from my previous folder and then brought it in. You'll notice that it has my ThorHammerIntoUnreal, then it has a ThorHammerIntoUnreal .u asset. So that is an Unreal asset that it is saving it as also. Same thing with my AI standard surface, that is a Unreal asset as well. Content, geometry, ThorHammer. Now notice that because I brought my ThorHammer in from the one that I copied that was already saved, that all of my materials, textures, and whatever else are actually saved too. So you still can go from one to the other. It's just a matter of making sure you're copying the right stuff. That way I don't have to rebuild the material for this. It's just automatically linked because I built it in the other one and copied the right files. All right, so nice. There we go. I should probably turn that down. Probably a bad day to be doing this anyway. These are tennis balls anyway, but yeah, so you can see it's interactive, so that as he's like shooting at it, you can see the reflection of them, and it's just bouncing right off. And depending on how big of the box, it's going to do different things with what the tennis ball does to it. And just like Maya, there's parameters, so we can go over here to ThorHammer. I can say simulate physics. Down here, I'll give it a mass of like 0.2, and then I'm going to scale this down quite a bit. There we go. Okay, so I play. So now it fell down, and now I can shoot it. Probably. Anything is possible in here. It's just a matter of getting to the point of understanding where it's set up at, okay? So on the surface, the stuff I've shown is pretty simple. We drug our object in, we can scale it up and down, we can click a couple buttons, assign materials. That's easy stuff. Over here on the top right, this is, in this scene, this is all the stuff that goes into it. And a lot of it is very simple. Here's my walls, here's my floor, here is some of the cubes. If I zoom out, we can see it. Okay, and I can move them around just like I would move anything else around. That's not a big deal. Here's some lighting. So there's actually several things that go into the lighting. It's basically trying to emulate more of like a substance arena where we have like reflections and sky and all that. Here's some atmosphere stuff. All of these you can play with. You can click on them, come down here and adjust their parameters and see what they're going to look like. Some of them you have to render first. Where this gets really complex is under these things called the blueprints. Eventually, I'll start touching on these a little bit more because this is where some of the cool stuff can really start to happen. So if you don't like programming, this isn't programming, but it's very similar to programming. It's basically a layout of everything that is inside the scene. Now, I opened up the one that has nothing in it. I didn't do that on purpose. Let's go to blueprints. Open blueprint class. First person character. There we go. Okay. So here's all the stuff that goes into the first person character and making him work the way he works. So motion controls are enabled, and the VR gun and the hide the mash 2P is there. Here's resetting his orientation, moving him around, stick input, mouse input. If I didn't want, just for instance, I didn't want the jump button to be spacebar, I could actually go into here and I could reassign the spacebar to be something else, okay? Or the jump to be something else. I can control which way he's looking. I can also look at the viewport to see what the actual guy is. So this is what he looks like. Because it's a first person, they don't waste time with the entire character. They just have his arms and the weapon right there, and this camera that follows him around. So if I wanted to, I could actually drop my Thor hammer into here. Maybe. This isn't going to do anything. It's just going to have the Thor hammer just right in front of him. There you go. Just obscure his vision. There we go. So we're going to save this. We're going to compile it. We'll save it. We're going to hit the play button. And now we have a Thor hammer right in front of us. Okay? But there's other stuff that we can do too. We can walk into a room, trigger sound effects, trigger lights, trigger different events to happen. When he does hit something, we can have an explosion happen. Probably the best thing about the Unreal Engine when you're starting to play with this is that you can go through YouTube and there's these videos that are like 5 minutes, 10 minutes long at the most. Some are obviously a little bit longer. How to explode. There you go. So here's an explosion, 3 minutes long. That's not right. Create an explosion in 3 minutes and 33 seconds. So this one walks you through how do you create an explosion in 3 minutes. Oh, I skipped it. So wait. So we can hit play and then. So they go over breaking apart the block. They go over how do you make the explosion or how do you assign the explosion. How do you get the sound effects in there. And it's all pretty quick. And that's the cool thing is like you literally, everything you can think of you want to do, it's simply a matter of trying to find that one tutorial that shows how do I do that. Some things are a little bit more involved, but for basic stuff, it's like super duper, super awesome. Okay. Cool. So I should probably get rid of that off of the guy so that that doesn't bother me later. There we go. File, save. Cool. And now we're back. Cool. All right. So after your which one are we on now? Thor hammer. After your Thor hammer is done, then take it into you're going to render out a still, a big still, just like before, 3000 by 2400. Nice lighting, nice composition. And then you'll take it into Unreal and just play around in there. This part won't be due, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You should still go in there and still play with it because we will be getting into more Unreal. Part of this class is expanding and exploring different avenues. You do not know whether you're going to be working in 3D for products, 3D for movies, 3D for games, 3D for print, 3D for whatever. Okay, so I want to make sure when you leave, you've at least been exposed to all these different areas so you have an idea of how to play with them. Alrighty? Questions? Sir?
Can you make the gun shoot goo and then make it just a giant mess?
I can't. Someone can. Cool. All right. I will put these